Hey guys, so we're in our forest in the Finger Lakes here, and you'll notice that there's not a lot of understory plantings here, and it's partially because we have some deer browse. But we have a plan to assemble a deer fence and extend it into the woods. And so what I'd like to do is actually plant some native bulb species today. Now, we had recently gone to Smith Woods, which is an old growth forest here in the Finger Lakes. And what was really heartening to see is that they had assembled a deer fence 2 years prior, and some of their native bulbs, like trilliums, were miraculously coming up. So that is very exciting. We're actually going to be doing some enrichment planting of trillium and also Virginia bluebells, so I have them packaged in here. And basically these plants are bulbs or rhizomes that you plant underground, and the flowers will come up generally in the springtime. But it is the springtime now, so I'll be planting them, and they might not come up this spring, but they might come up next spring. So since we'll have the deer fence already extended by that time, hopefully they'll just stay underground and lay dormant. I actually started planting up this whole area already with some bulbs, and I actually see some things that are coming up already. I'm not quite sure, this could be ramps. I did go in and plant some ramps already, so kind of an exciting time, but you'll see some invasive species popping up, like this Multiflora Rose. So these are things that I'm gonna have to take out before I plant any bulbs, because it'll just cause problems in the future. So if you'll excuse me.
With this tool?
Well, this is a mattock, and what I'm trying to do is get under the root of this plant, because this plant tends to have a very deep root, and you don't want to leave any of the plant in the ecosystem if possible, because it'll just start to reroot. And this was an invasive plant. We didn't know it was invasive at the time, but the NRCS was giving the plant around as a hedge, and it does make a really nice impenetrable hedge, but it kind of takes over the place. And we're not too deep in the woods. I mean, this woods was clear cut at some point, and we're not too deep into it. So this likes to have a little bit of sunlight. So you see. Now, if you look really closely, you also see that it has some rose thorns there, so it gets pretty prickly.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you have those gloves on.
Yes, rose gloves, very helpful. I really don't need those for planting bulbs, but so I'll just hang this out to dry like a noose there. But everything else, you know, it's like tree seedlings and everything, that's okay. These bulbs are adapted to lower light conditions, so they are used to growing in the understory of the forest, which is part of the reason why we're planting them. So I'm just going to separate them out. I got quite a lot of Virginia bluebells, but I also have some trillium that I didn't plant. So this is trillium, bluebells. I probably got several hundred, actually. I'll probably end up putting them roughly in the same area just to see if they take. I think there's a strong possibility they will, especially if we assemble the deer fence. And I've noticed that some other bulbs have naturalized in our forest. So the owners previously here planted some daffodils, especially in the lower parts of the property. And we have some daffodils that have naturalized, but they haven't become invaders at all. Okay, these are also Virginia bluebells. So I think I might have planted almost all of the trillium except for a few. Now, here's what I have. I have my, this is a bulb auger. They come in several sizes. I wanted one that was quite long, and I think these are useful. They drill into the ground, and the idea is that you put your actual drill on it. So you have some extra firepower, if you will. And so what you want to do is actually just work this into the hole And it depends on how deep you want to go, depending on what your bulb requires. So a lot of the trilliums I was putting in around like 2 to 3 inches down. And if you want a wider auger, you have those too if the bulb happens to be large. So I'm thinking like some of those allium bulbs that have the big purple globe flowers. Those are quite big, so you'll need a chunkier auger for that. But what I like about this is I don't have to bend over so much. You know, I could pop in like 50 holes here, and then all I'm doing is like bending down to actually plant the bulb. And another thing to note about the bulb auger, especially in type of soil, like I'm not preparing this planting bed right here. This is just the native soil that we have, and it's a pretty clay soil. So oftentimes like the clay will get stuck on this or gunked up. Sometimes if we're planting in long grass, which we were closer to the wet meadow, like the grass just like tangles and tangles around it. So you have to kind of like work it off the bulb auger. So it's not always that we're like working in like perfect soil, like silty loam planting beds. So that's something to take into consideration.
Yeah, and if there's dirt stuck on the drill, a really good way to get it out is to get some gloves and just grab the dirt that's at the end of it, and then put your drill in reverse.
Yeah.
And then slowly turn it, and then you'll actually turn the whole clump of dirt and grass off the drill.
Right.
Which otherwise would be very hard to remove if you just try to peel it off.
So I'm looking at this. This is all solidago. So this is goldenrod. I'm just going to remove some of those. Goldenrod could be very aggressive, especially Canada goldenrod. And what you want to do is actually just put about a teaspoon of this biotone, or alternatively, you could use Espoma's bulb tone. And what this is it helps with the transplanting process of the plant and helps strengthen the plant over time. And it has helpful fungi as well as bacteria. So it's an incredible product. I'm not using the bulb tone here, but I just brought it out here for you to see. I'm actually using the biotone, which I put in here just for ease because I have a huge bag of it. Let's start with the Virginia Bluebells, because that was originally my plan here, was to actually take Virginia Bluebells and also Cornus canadensis and just start spreading it along the ground. And these are native bulbs. You can see some of them are already coming up. And I'm just going to work my way through. These look really beautiful clumped together. There's a little worm, huh? How about that? Try to keep him in there. I love seeing worms. So what we're going to do is just put about a teaspoon in. This one's really long. Look at that. And these will start to spread. You can see that I'm not planting too deeply underground.
Yeah, so will they take over other areas as well, or
yeah,
are they going to stay pretty much in this area?
No, they should. They should be able to take over. The same with the trilliums. I'll see if I could find some of the trilliums that we had planted and show you some of what their bulbs look like. I actually did think I had some, and it turns out that I must have planted them all. I ordered them pretty early just to get a jump on them, because I knew people are gardening like crazy now, and so it's hard sometimes to get all of what you want. But this soil is nice. It's had some organic matter just sitting here. Sprinkle your little fairy dust. Take this one right here. These look great. I ordered them from 2 different places. And yeah, see what the experience is. Now, when you think about bluebell forests in Europe, it's a completely different plant species altogether. So it's not the Virginia bluebells. I'm going to go with the Virginia bluebells because that's what's actually native here. But when we think of bluebell forests in Europe, we're probably thinking of the hyacinths, which we could possibly do hyacinths here, but they are considered more an invasive species that tends to naturalize really quickly. So I'd rather go with a native one. I think this little beetle I brought up out of the soil. Sorry about that, guy. Go back in there. There we go. I'm just gonna use a bull bogger in this area. It's a little stiffer in the... I've been using the bull bogger to not only plant bulbs, but also plant plugs. I find it very useful, especially if I just want to get a start on the soil. I think there was a lot of roots there, so there you go. I planted these at my community garden in Brooklyn, and as well as with trilliums and some bloodroot, and I was amazed how they came up extremely well. So I have some confidence that, you know, these will also come up pretty readily, provided that we keep the deer out of this area. But there's a lot of stuff right now for the deer to eat because it is spring, so they probably won't come and eat these plants. Fingers crossed.
So what's the best type of soil for these plants? Because our soil is has a lot of clay in it, or it's not so well draining, I guess.
No, it's not so well draining, but the best soil is really your native soil. And the reason for that is if you start to amend your soil too much, then if the plant ever develops a deeper root, it won't want to grow in that, you know, soil that is so hard and tough. So you want to acclimate it to your soil. It's part of where, you know, the biotone could come in too, because the transplanting process, you know, taking a plant out and then putting it back into the land is can be very stressful for the plant. So providing some ability to de-stress the plant with some good nutrients and some helpful bacteria and some helpful mycorrhizae are probably going to be much better and easier on that plant. Now, clay is not necessarily bad. It's hard to work with, but it maintains nutrients very well. And ours isn't 100% clay. It's like about 24% clay, so it's not too bad. What we would like to promote, though, is some of this leaf litter and pine litter that you see on the ground, because the more of that, then the more organic matter goes into the soil, and it helps with the friability and loosens up the soil even more. So you'll notice that in the distance over there, we're actually inoculating some of those wood chips that we got from our land because we had to take down some ash trees. And we also got our local arborist to come and drop off some more chips from the area. And we've actually inoculated that with Stropharia mushrooms. So that should eventually start to break down, and that will eventually become a nice planting bed as well. Look at that one. This is neat. All right, so I think I might have to increase the size of this hole here. But yeah, you could see the clay in the soil that you're referring to, but not totally clay, because look, it's starting to break up very nicely. Some areas it feels a little more clay than others. Okay. Spread that in. Just put that in. And put some of the soil back. I'm not going to bury the green. Might just put some leaves over it. Some of our stones. Put that to the side. That could be a really nice place to actually plant. These get really beautiful flowers, so as the name might imply, you know, they're called bluebells, and they do look like little bluebells that are off the side of the plant. And they get really nice, almost like lime green leaves, which is interesting because on the forest floor it really stands out. Oh, I think I planted some ramps here, so I gotta be careful. You see that? So. I want to take you over to show you some of the native plants that we have here. So I just saw this yesterday when I came in. This is Gallium. I think it's called Gallium Trifluorum. And it's known as, I believe, woodruff or bedstraw. And this is one of our natives. And you can see that it's starting to spread like a carpet. I actually planted some Gallium odorata in another planting bed as well. So it's related to this, different species. And that one's known as sweet woodruff, I believe. So yeah, I love this. I love to see some of the native wildflowers come in. And that's what we're trying to do here, is planting some trillium and planting some Virginia bluebells. Let's see if we could find some of the trillium that we planted. Just so I could show you. Maybe this is one. Just dig it up here. You can see some strawberries too, look at this. Some strawberries. Okay, yeah, so this is the bulb. There you go, that's a little bit what it looks like. So this is how it would work. You basically just drill the hole with the bulb auger. Put in about a teaspoon of biotone, and then just plant that in, just like that. And we're just gonna put the soil back in.
Leave the white part above the soil.
I would leave the white part above the soil.
Will that always be on there, or how do you know what's up and down?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, this part is what was growing on top. You could see that it had a little green leaf. It etiolated, and you could see that, meaning it stretched out. It was probably in the bag when it was being sent to us. It just got a little leggy. And then this is the root, but this is the stuff that will survive. So again, you want to just get that in around 2 inches into the soil, and then you just bury it like that. I left this up above the soil. You won't need to, because it won't grow this year. But it's good that I did that so I could actually see where I planted, because I'm not putting, you know, a little tag in here. Yeah, so there's another one. Here's another one right here. If we're lucky, these will come back in the spring. All right, this is the last bulb and rhizome that I'm putting in here. This is the Virginia bluebells, and just dug the hole about 1 inch down, adding a teaspoon of biotone here. I'm just gonna lay it in and add some of that nice friable clay, but clay soil back in. And what will help protect it and keep the moisture in and keep the animals out is just providing this layer of duff right here. Now, if you actually planted these bulbs or rhizomes in your flowering plant bed, as opposed to kind of a more naturalistic forest like I did here, then you might want to add some more fertilizer to your mix. So like maybe using some of that bulb tone 6 to 8 weeks afterwards. But otherwise, I think that this will be fine with the organic matter that's here in the forest. And we're going to tread lightly here and use this as a test plot to see if some of these native plants will actually start to grow and bloom, particularly after we move the deer fence back here. So there you have it. This is what enrichment planting in the forest is all about. And fingers crossed that maybe in the fall and next spring, we'll see some of these plants emerge. If you haven't heard yet, we'll be donating and investing 10% of our YouTube AdSense revenue from this channel back into the Finger Lakes community. We're so thankful that Espoma, our partners across both Plant One On Me and Flock Finger Lakes channels, will be matching those funds this year, as well as through a combination of monies and or products, depending on the project. So just know that by watching these videos, you're helping the community here.